Welcome to Wealthrise Stories, where clarity meets knowledge, and knowledge becomes financial power.
Have you ever woken up one morning with an idea exploding in your mind, one that feels like it could actually change the way the whole world works? A new algorithm, a breakthrough app, a piece of tech so clever, it would make people say, "Why didn't I think of that sooner?" And instantly, one name flashes in your head. One place that feels like the only destination where such a wild dream could come to life, Silicon Valley. Picture yourself there in an open workspace filled with natural light and buzzing with creative energy. You're sitting in a pricey, ergonomic chair, or maybe sinking into a soft beanbag with a free artisan coffee resting on your desk. Around you are some of the smartest minds on the planet, people building the future together, writing million-dollar, even billion-dollar success stories. You feel like every limit dissolves. A single line of code you write today could become the backbone of an app used by 1 billion people tomorrow. A spontaneous brainstorm could reshape the way we live, work, and connect. This is Silicon Valley, the promised land for dreamers, for the ones who dare to think big and act fast. A place where the word impossible might as well not exist. Where you're encouraged to move fast and break things, where failure is practically a badge of honor as long as you learn from it. It's the symbol of relentless innovation, endless opportunity, and modern-day fairy tales of tech nobodies turning into billionaires in just a few years. The American dream, but coded and running on the internet. A siren call from a land promising wealth status, and above all, the chance to change the world. But is that glowing picture the whole truth? Is that really everything happening behind those shimmering glass walls and upbeat tweets? I've spoken with many people who have lived and breathed the air of Silicon Valley. They told me about endless all-nighters stretching on for weeks, even months, about constantly sprinting to keep up with funding rounds. They talked about the always-on culture where a work email at 3 a.m. is normal, and you're expected to reply instantly, weekends, holidays, whatever. About the crushing loneliness that creeps in even when you're surrounded by thousands of people in a lively, laughter-filled office. About the deep fear known as impostor syndrome, the feeling that you're not good enough, not deserving of your position, even if you're brilliant. About the invisible pressure, the massive expectations weighing on their shoulders, and the constant need to prove their worth in an environment where today's amazing can be tomorrow's average. Behind the glamour, the constant innovation, and the dazzling success stories lies another world. A world outsiders rarely see, rarely talk about. A place that after years of observing and listening, I've come to call by another name, not just Silicon Valley, but the Silicon Jungle. Sounds strange, doesn't it? A tropical jungle hidden among skyscrapers and modern highways. But picture this. The Silicon Jungle is full of life. A vibrant ecosystem overflowing with activity. The towering ancient trees and abundant water, those are the massive investment opportunities, the fresh ideas sprouting every second, the tech giants with seemingly infinite resources. It's seductive, inviting promising prosperity and legacy. Thousands, even millions, still flock here every year, captivated by the lure of wealth and technological power. Yet like any tropical jungle, it hides countless dangers. Predators lurk everywhere, cutthroat competition that squeezes the air out of your lungs, constant pivots that force you to adapt instantly or be eliminated. The fear of failure, the fear of being outpaced by a younger, bolder startup. And the invisible traps, burnout, eating away at your mind and body, toxic work cultures, the relentless pressure to be disruptive, to change the world, even when all you want is a decent night's sleep and a proper meal. Every new idea is a seed, but not every seed grows into a towering tree. Many die young, stepped on by bigger, faster competitors, or simply rejected by the market without mercy. And here the casualties aren't just products. They're people. You can be a rising star today, yet tomorrow, a sudden layoff can leave you lost in this forest, with no compass and no way home. It's not a fair playground where everyone gets an equal shot. It's a survival arena where only the stronger, faster, sharper can make it. And sometimes, even survival is all you get. I've seen many arrive in Silicon Valley with eyes full of hope, only to leave with tired, disappointed, or even broken ones. So the real question isn't, how do I get into this jungle? Because many of you are already in it or on your way. The real question is, how do you not only survive, but truly grow? Carve out your own path, and maybe even in the chaos, leave your unique mark among the countless species in this technological rainforest. How do you hear your own calling amid the growls of competition and the rustling of leaves, the call from your own inner wilderness? That's the journey we're going to explore together in today's video and throughout the book, The Silicon Jungle. Let's dive deep into this world to uncover the unspoken rules, the challenges no one talks about, and most importantly, the ways we can tame, or at least coexist, with the Silicon Jungle. Hello everyone, and it's great to see you back on our channel. In the previous part, we sketched out a bit of the journey ahead, where we hope to go, and what we hope to uncover a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us, especially in a time when technology is shaping every corner of our lives. And now it's time for us to officially set sail and head straight into the heart of the jungle we're about to explore. A jungle not of wild trees, but of explosive ideas, burning ambition, and at times, fleeting illusions. That book is none other than The Silicon Jungle. The name The Silicon Jungle sounds a bit edgy, doesn't it? Silicon clearly points to Silicon Valley, the tech capital of the world. And jungle evokes an image of something raw, unpredictable, even dangerous, but also full of hidden treasures and mysteries. Many people might assume this is a dry business book about technology billion-dollar startups or complicated IT jargon that requires a solid technical background just to keep up. But no, absolutely not. In reality, The Silicon Jungle, and this is something I want to emphasize right from the start, is not just a story about code semiconductors or complex algorithms. It's a razor-sharp mirror reflecting who we are as human beings. It digs into the unique, sometimes downright absurd work culture, into the psychology of people swept up in the whirlwind of nonstop innovation. It explores the price we pay for unbounded ambition, for the dream of changing the world, while sometimes forgetting what we're changing inside ourselves. This book taps into our quiet fears, our inner conflicts, and those rare moments of awakening that anyone, whether you work in Silicon Valley or don't care much about tech at all, can find themselves relating to. Because at the core of everything, whether it's technology or any other field, it always comes back to people. And this is where the role of your guide's compass comes in. I'm not here to passively read the book to you, nor to mechanically summarize each chapter or simply break down technical terms. My job is not to deliver information one way and turn you into a passive listener. No, my job is to be your companion. Together, we'll peel back layers of meaning, uncover the stories and the philosophies hidden beneath the shiny surface of technology. We'll break down examples, look at real situations, and most importantly, discover a map for your own journey. A map that not only guides you through the maze of tech, but also helps you understand yourself more deeply, your core values, and how to navigate life in a world changing at breakneck speed. I'll be your guide, your mirror, and hopefully the person who helps you ask the hard questions so you can find the meaningful answers, answers rooted in humanity, going far beyond the limits of screens and keyboards. So how exactly are we going to move through this Silicon Jungle? This video series is not just a typical book review. We're going to dive into each major chapter, each big theme the book puts on the table. And with every chapter, we won't stop at, what is the author saying? We'll ask, what does this mean for us? What can we take from it, and how can we apply it to our own lives? Together, we'll draw out specific action plans, things you can reflect on, experiment with, or even implement right away in your work and personal life. It might be a new perspective on balance, a bit of guidance on facing pressure, or a suggestion on how we redefine success for ourselves. And finally, I'll do my best to distill the most valuable lessons, the gems of wisdom this book offers, so you can carry them with you as you grow. Think of them as solid stepping stones, helping you shape your own path. The ultimate goal is to help you decode the deeply human lessons hidden beneath the technological shell lessons about compassion, resilience, and the true meaning of living a purposeful life. Get ready, because this journey, I'm certain, won't just change the way you look at technology. It'll change the way you look at yourself. We now have our compass. So come with me into the Silicon Jungle, not to get lost, but to finally find yourself. Now we're going to kick off a special series diving deep into a world everyone's heard of, everyone longs for, but not everyone truly understands the world of the Silicon Jungle. And to open this adventure, let's start with Chapter 1, Dawn in the Valley. The allure of the dream. Guys, have you ever asked yourselves what turned a quiet stretch of fruit orchards in California into the epicenter of innovation, and the place that has produced self-made billionaires and products that changed the entire world? What makes the smartest minds and the most ambitious hearts, no matter where they are on the planet, long to set foot in Silicon Valley? It's a mysterious pull, a kind of spell, a promise that whispers into the ear of every talented young person, every dreamer. It's not just a spot on the map. It's an idea, a dream woven from threads of wealth, fame, and the power to make an impact on a global scale. Number 1. The rose-tinted promise, wealth, fame, and global impact. Think about it. When you're young with a bold idea in your head, what do you want money to make it real? Recognition for your genius, or simply a chance to prove you can do something big, something game-changing? Silicon Valley promises all of that and then some. Wealth. Who hasn't dreamed of becoming an overnight millionaire? In Silicon Valley, that isn't just some far-fetched fairy tale. It's a story that has played out thousands of times. From the wildly successful IPO of what once looked like a crazy startup to the massive stock grants handed out to key employees. Just look at the stories of young engineers, founders who dropped out of college and just a few years later found themselves sitting on enormous fortunes. The promise of financial freedom, of never having to worry about money again so you can pour your soul into what you love, is a powerful magnet. It paints a shortcut to prosperity that few other fields seem to match, at least in the imagination of many. Fame. It's not just about the money. The Valley also offers another form of currency that's just as valuable: fame. In a world where movie stars and pop singers have long been the center of attention, Silicon Valley has created a new generation of icons, the tech founders. They're the rock stars of the 21st century, landing on magazine covers, speaking at global conferences, and being celebrated as visionaries. Their names aren't just mentioned in tech circles. They ripple across the globe as symbols of innovation and success. Who wouldn't want their names spoken in the same breath as the people who changed the world? Global impact. And maybe the deepest, strongest pull lies in the promise of impact. Most brilliant minds don't just want to get rich. They want to do something meaningful. They want to tackle humanity's biggest problems, connect people, shape the future. From searching for information online, Google, to connecting friends around the world, Facebook, to putting a whole library's worth of knowledge in your pocket, Apple's smartphones. Silicon Valley doesn't just let you dream about these things. It gives you the infrastructure, the resources, and an entire ecosystem that can turn the wildest ideas into reality. The feeling that you're part of something bigger than yourself, that your work is literally shaping the lives of billions, that's a powerful motivator. you don't find just anywhere. 2. The chosen one mindset and the cult of genius. But is that all there is? Is a promise of money, fame, and impact enough to fully explain this irresistible pull? I don't think so. There's something deeper at play, rooted in human psychology, the feeling that you are the chosen one, someone special who can see what others can't. Silicon Valley has carefully crafted a story, a mythology about itself. It's portrayed as the gathering place of the smartest people in the room, and the ones who aren't afraid to break the rules, the ones who dare to think differently. You don't just go there to work. You go there to become part of an elite tribe. From the very first moment you walk into a startup office with beanbag chairs, a foosball table, and free snacks, you feel like you're stepping into a different kind of space, one where normal rules no longer apply, and creativity is treated like sacred ground. The culture of worshiping the genius founder is also a crucial part of this magnetism. Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, Bill Gates. These names aren't just successful entrepreneurs. They're legends, heroes painted in mythic tones, from cramped garages and college dorm rooms to changing the world with one crazy idea. They're cast as extraordinary individuals with vision far ahead of their time, people who saw the future while the rest of the world was still asleep. And when you look at these stories, you can't help but ask yourself, if they could do it, why can't I? That mindset creates a powerful feedback loop. Talented people see themselves in these geniuses, believe they too can achieve something similar. And that belief pulls even more talented people into the valley. It's as if the valley itself is whispering, "You're not ordinary. You were born to make a difference. Come here and we'll give you the tools to do it." 3. Real-life fairy tales. To make this irresistible pull even more concrete, let's revisit some classic success stories we practically all know by heart. Apple. The story of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started in a garage with a simple dream to create a personal computer that everyday people could actually use. Who could have imagined that a company born from such a modest idea would become the most valuable company on earth, reshaping the way we interact with technology and with the world around us? The blend of visionary thinking, impeccable design, and almost magical storytelling turned Apple into an empire. Google. It began as a research project in a Stanford dorm room where Larry Page and Sergey Brin set out to organize the world's information, a mission that sounded almost impossible. But they did it and more. Today, Google is not just a search engine. It's woven into the digital lives of billions, from maps and email to smartphones. Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. Or then a Harvard student just wanted to create a way for classmates to connect with each other. Who could have predicted that this simple idea would grow into the largest social network in the world, changing how we communicate, share information, and build relationships? From a dorm room to connecting more than 3 billion people. That's a dream that actually came true. These stories, along with thousands of smaller, lesser-known but equally inspiring ones, have painted a near-perfect portrait of a promised land. They are living proof that in Silicon Valley, nothing seems impossible. As long as you have an idea, talent, and just enough craziness to chase it, the doors to success feel like they're waiting to swing open. And it's exactly these glittering promises, these almost mythic stories, combined with a culture that celebrates difference and genius, that have turned Silicon Valley into an unstoppable magnet. It attracts not only those who want to get rich, but also those who yearn to leave a mark, people who believe they have a larger mission to fulfill. But does that rosy picture tell the whole truth? Behind the spotlight and the fairy tale narratives are their shadows, challenges, and harsh realities that this Chapter 1 hasn't touched yet. That's the story we'll explore together in the next parts of the Silicon Jungle. Thank you for listening. Don't miss the next chapter, where we'll start peeling back the outer shell and looking deeper into the real structure of this technological jungle. See you then, Welcome back to the Silicon Jungle, the technology forest. If in Chapter 1 we stood at the gateway of the tech world looking at its grandeur from a distance, then today, in Chapter 2, the unwritten laws of the jungle, we're going deeper, following the hidden trails to decode the unspoken rules, the whispers no one says out loud, but somehow shape the entire game. At first glance, Silicon Valley, or more broadly, the global tech ecosystem looks like a paradise of creativity, a playground for groundbreaking ideas. But dig a little deeper, and you'll see that behind all that shine lies a maze of unwritten norms, quiet expectations you must memorize if you want to survive and thrive. This is where hustle culture isn't just a trend, it's a lifestyle, almost a religion. 1. Decoding the language of the jungle. Move fast and break things. Fail fast. 10x. Engineer. Let's start by decoding a few phrases you've probably heard somewhere or will hear constantly once you step into this jungle. These aren't just slogans. They're philosophies, mindsets that shape how people work, create, and interact. First, let's talk about Facebook's famous mantra. Move fast and break things. Sounds a little reckless, doesn't it? At its core, it's an invitation to innovate, relentlessly, experiment, fearlessly, and accept mistakes as the price of hypergrowth. The goal is to create the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time. And I'm willing to bet you've heard this one before, right? But what's the downside? Well, breaking things sometimes brings consequences. No one plans for system failures, security issues, and even ethical scandals when speed outruns caution. It's like driving a race car. The faster you go, the higher the risk. You might reach the finish line early or crash spectacularly. And in tech, that crash might cost user trust or spark a PR disaster. Closely tied to that is fail fast. Not fail in a careless way, but fail to learn fail so you can stand up faster. This mindset encourages experimenting with new ideas, even risky ones, as long as you recognize failure early, adjust, and move on. It's a way to save time and resources. But in a fiercely competitive environment, fail fast sometimes morphs into pressure to constantly innovate, constantly iterate, constantly sprint. Everyone fears getting left behind if they aren't always failing and learning. It creates a never-ending loop of experimentation that can easily lead to burnout and losing your sense of direction. And finally, a term you'll definitely hear: 10x engineer. The legendary engineer supposedly 10 times more productive than the average developer. Sounds superhuman, right? In reality, it usually refers to someone with exceptional problem-solving ability, clean and efficient code, and a remarkable grasp of system architecture. But you know what else it does? It creates an impossible standard, an invisible pressure to constantly outperform yourself or compare yourself to a near-mythical ideal. Are you a 10x engineer? Or are you chasing a mirage while overlooking the power of teamwork, those 1x engineers who together build something truly great? 2. Peer pressure and FOMO in a hyperspeed world. Imagine an environment where every single day you're bombarded with news about million-dollar startups, massive funding rounds, and shiny new technologies. Social media, especially LinkedIn, isn't just a place to share achievements. It's a silent battleground. Everyone's posting about their new project, the latest tech they're learning, their promotion, or their move to a hotter company. In that crazy fast pace, a familiar feeling starts creeping in: fear of missing out, FOMO. It's an invisible monster lurking in the shadows, whispering, "Am I doing enough? Am I falling behind? Am I missing the opportunity of my life?" Peer pressure here isn't just about working hard or learning new things. It's the constant anxiety that everyone else is moving faster than you, getting further than you. It drives you to attend every workshop, every conference, learn every new programming language, and read every trending self-help book. But what's the dark side of FOMO and peer pressure burnout? The sense that no matter what you do, it's never enough, you're never good enough, never fast enough. It pushes you into a vicious cycle of comparing yourself to everyone else, forgetting your own path and your own pace. It can take a serious toll on your mental health, leading to stress, anxiety, and exhaustion. You might find yourself working 10 to 12 hours a day, weekends included, not because you love the work that much, but because you're scared. Scared of being laid off, scared of being underestimated, scared that if you don't hustle hard enough, you'll be left behind in a race with no finish line. 3. Networking, a survival tool, not just a skill. In this jungle full of hidden rules and unseen pressures, there's one thing that isn't just a soft skill, it's a survival tool, a kind of ultimate weapon you need to master: networking. Don't think of networking as something you do only when job hunting. Think of it like tending a garden. You nurture small seeds, water them consistently, and one day they bloom and bear fruit. In the tech world, networking goes far beyond exchanging business cards. It's about building genuine, trusting relationships with people in your field, people with experience, people who might become mentors, people who might one day become partners. This is where you find insider information, unadvertised opportunities, honest advice from those who've stumbled through the same challenges you're facing. You can learn from their mistakes without having to repeat them. You might find a co-founder for your wild startup idea or a door opening to a project you never imagined. I've seen many talented, highly skilled people get stuck simply because they didn't know how to build or leverage their network. Meanwhile, others who may not be 10x engineers, but who have strong, meaningful connections, are the ones who constantly land the best opportunities and receive support when things get tough. Remember, humans are social creatures. No matter how high-tech your work is, it ultimately comes down to people connecting with people. Kindness, initiative, and the ability to build relationships are priceless assets anywhere, especially in this jungle. So from move fast and break things to the beast called FOMO and the power of networking, we've lifted the curtain on the unwritten laws that shape the Silicon Jungle. This isn't a peaceful garden. It's a vibrant, competitive rainforest where you must understand the rules if you don't want to lose your footing. But don't worry. Understanding these rules is the first step toward adapting and eventually mastering the game. In Chapter 3, we'll go deeper into how you can find your own path through the twists and turns of this jungle, how to maintain balance, protect your mental health, and still grow sustainably. If you found this helpful, don't forget to hit like, share the video, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapters. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in Chapter 3. If in Chapter 2, we dove deep into the turbulent world of startups, the small but fiercely alive creatures constantly fighting for a place to stand. Then today, we're going to lift our heads and look straight into the eyes of the apex predators, the creatures that shape and control this entire ecosystem. We're talking about Chapter 3, Yonder Apex Predators. VCs and Big Tech. VCs and Big Tech, two dominant species, the gods or the demons, depending on your point of view, whose power and incentives drive the flow of everything in this jungle. Let's explore who they are, what they do, and why their influence is so enormous. Let's start with venture capitalists. VCs. In the Silicon Jungle, VCs aren't just the blood, the lifeline, the fuel that keeps young startups alive. They're the sharp-eyed hawks circling above, always scanning for the most promising prey, the startups with the potential to break out in spectacular fashion. 1. A symbiotic, high-risk relationship between startups and VCs. Imagine you're a young fawn just learning to stand on your own legs. That's your startup. You've got a great idea, a passionate team, but you need energy to grow, to run faster, to escape the dangers lurking around you. VCs are that energy source. They show up, they see your potential, they believe in what you can become. They pour in money, but also knowledge, experience, and their network. They're not just investors, they're mentors, launch pads for your dream. That's the symbiotic side. The startup gets capital to grow, and the VCs get a shot at massive returns if the startup succeeds. Sounds perfect, right? But every dream has its price. This relationship, while symbiotic, is loaded with risk, especially for the startup. In exchange for receiving blood, the startup has to give up some of its own flesh equity. And not just equity, but also the burden of growth targets, the pressure of never-ending milestones, and the expectation of hyper-growth. The clock suddenly starts ticking faster. I've seen many founders who once lit up the room with their ideas slowly turn into stressed, sleep-deprived versions of themselves, wrestling with massive expectations from investors. Every funding round is a victory, but also a new weight on their shoulders. Every dollar raised comes with an unspoken promise and obligation to deliver. If they don't, the dream can shatter at any moment, and VCs, the patient predators, won't hesitate to pull out and go hunt for the next promising prey. Remember, they're not running a charity. They're running an investment fund, and their single goal is returns. They want you to succeed brilliantly, to bring back 10x, 20x, even 100x. And to get there, they'll push you right up to your limits. If VCs are the hawks, fast, agile, hunting from above, then big tech, the Googles, Apple's, Metas, Amazon's, Microsoft's, are the massive mountain ranges, the apex predators, on a completely different scale. They don't just hunt. They reshape the terrain of the entire jungle. 2. Big tech, a source of inspiration and a looming threat of being absorbed. To countless startups, big tech is an endless source of inspiration. They're living proof that a tiny idea can grow into a vast empire. They're symbols of innovation, peak success, and staggering wealth. Many founders dream that one day their startup will either become part of big tech or at least follow the path these giants have paved. But the dark side of these mountains is the enormous shadow they cast. Big tech is both inspiration and a terrifying force of absorption. Imagine you've just built a small but beautiful cabin in the forest, unique, clever, and incredibly functional. You're proud of it. Then one day a gigantic mammoth shows up. It looks at you, looks at your cabin, and it has two choices. One, it buys your cabin and folds it into its massive housing empire. 2, it crushes your cabin and builds its own better version right next to where yours used to stand. What do? That's the story between startups and big tech. One phone call from Google, one email from Apple, one offer from Meta can either be the dream come true or a veiled threat. They might acquire you to remove a potential competitor, to absorb your technology, or to gut your team for talent. With almost unlimited capital and direct access to billions of users, big tech can easily copy your product, improve it, and launch it at scale. When that happens, your tiny startup pretty much has no shot at competing. Many founders have confided in me that sometimes being noticed by big tech feels like a double-edged sword. On one side is the chance of a lifetime. On the other is a deep fear that their idea is now in the crosshairs of a giant that can swallow them at any moment. These giants are like walled gardens. They grow whatever they want inside, and anything that doesn't fit can be removed or absorbed. And this is where the story gets more complicated and maybe a bit more worrying. 3. How concentrated power in a few predators affects diversity and innovation. When power is concentrated in the hands of a small group of predators, VCs, deciding who gets funded, and big tech deciding who survives or gets acquired, the diversity of the tech jungle takes a serious hit. Think about biodiversity. A healthy forest needs many kinds of trees, shrubs, plants, and flowers. Each species has its own role. But when the massive old growth trees, big tech, and the powerful forest planters, VCs, begin to set all the rules, what happens? VCs under pressure to deliver huge returns to their limited partners. LPs tend to pour money into proven models, safe ideas that look innovative on the surface, but are really just variations of what already exists. They chase the next big thing, but often within a familiar template. This leads to a kind of sameness among funded startups. Fewer teams dare to pursue truly crazy, radically new ideas because it's incredibly hard to convince investors to risk their money on something with no precedent. Meanwhile, big tech keeps strengthening its position. They have enough cash to buy any promising rival or enough power to crush them by rebuilding and distributing a copy at massive scale. They create huge barriers for smaller startups trying to compete. This drastically reduces the diversity of solutions and perspectives. Instead of 100 small trees growing competing and enriching the ecosystem, we risk ending up with just a few massive trees, and under their shade, only a small number of saplings are allowed to grow under rules those giants set. This means fewer chances for new voices for truly disruptive ideas that don't fit the taste of VCs or are seen as a threat by big tech. It creates a kind of quiet monopoly, shaping the future of technology in ways controlled by just a handful of players. Innovation starts to feel repetitive, focused on optimizing what already exists instead of exploring entirely new frontiers. I once spoke with a very seasoned VC. He told me, "We're not a charity. We're a profit-driven fund. We can't risk other people's money on an idea where I can't see an exit." Makes sense, right? But that exit mindset sometimes narrows their vision, causing them to overlook truly unique, rough diamonds. So there you have it. Chapter 3 takes us into the complex, powerful dynamic between VCs and big tech in the Silicon Jungle. They are the apex predators controlling the flow of capital and innovation. They're not evil. They're just doing their jobs according to market logic. But we, the ones living and working in this jungle, need to understand their incentives, their power, and their limits in order to navigate, survive, and grow. Recognizing these mountains and hawks isn't about making us fearful. It's about understanding the rules of the game, so that small startups can craft their own strategies, or so we can ask bigger questions. Is there a way to nurture a more diverse, healthier tech ecosystem where not everything lives in the shadow of a few giants? The next part of the Silicon Jungle will focus on the most resilient survivors, the strategies for beating the odds, and how the smaller species still find ways to rise up amid the giant predators. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next explorations with me. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next chapter. Welcome back to the Silicon Jungle. In the previous chapter, we explored the landscapes of Silicon Valley, the birthplace of the wildest ideas and the technologies that have reshaped the world. But every jungle, no matter how ancient or modern, is not just made of terrain. It must also have creatures living inside it, right? And that is exactly our topic today. Chapter 4. A living ecosystem. The species of tech. My goal is to humanize the different roles within the tech industry so you can better visualize how they interact, collaborate, and sometimes collide, creating an incredibly dynamic picture. 1. The engineer tribe architects of the digital world. If the Silicon Jungle is a forest, then engineers are the most populous and indispensable species, acting as the architects, the builders of everything around us. Picture them as a tribe specialized in constructing and solving problems. I often think of engineers as meticulous craftsmen fueled by a deep love for logic and elegant solutions. Their culture is shaped by code, a language of its own, strict and unforgiving toward ambiguity. One wrong line of code can bring down an entire system, just like one misplaced brick can collapse an entire building. Their natural habitat consists of integrated development environments, IDE, dark screens with glowing text, or whiteboards covered in diagrams and algorithms. Late-night coffee-heated debates about performance system architecture or the best way to do something are all familiar scenes. They can spend hours or days debugging a tiny bug users will never see. But to them, it's a challenge that must be conquered. They speak their own dialect, filled with terms like back-end, front-end, API, microservices, containerization. To outsiders, it might sound like encrypted messages. But for them, it's how knowledge is shared and how digital skyscrapers get built. Sometimes they can be incredibly practical, borderline blunt, because to them, anything that can't be measured or encoded might as well not exist. And ironically, that practicality is exactly what turns lofty ideas into real products. 2. Product and design. The translators between technology and humanity. If engineers are the heart and technical brain of a company, then product managers, PMs, and designers, UX or UI, are the master translators connecting the logical world of technology with the emotional world of human needs. Think of product managers as the navigators of the jungle. They understand the map, know where the potential lies, and know which species will thrive and best serve the community. They listen to users, analyze the market, and balance technical feasibility with business goals. They transform fuzzy ideas into concrete requirements, translating what customers and markets want into something engineers can build. They ask, what needs to be built, and why does it matter? A great PM sees the big picture, but also isn't afraid to dive into the smallest details. And the designers. They're the artists of the jungle. They don't just care whether the tree is strong, they care whether it looks good, whether it feels pleasant to sit under, whether it inspires positive emotions. UX designers focus on the entire experience. User journeys, usability intuition. UI designers care about every pixel, every color, every font. They bring soul into the product, turning a functional block of features into something delightful, understandable, and lovable. Their questions are, what will it look like and how will it feel? They work with sketches, wireframes, prototypes, user interviews, and usability tests. They are the ones constantly asking, how will our users feel before making any decision? They are the emotional bridge between humans and products. 3. Tension and momentum. Life in the Silicon Jungle. And of course, when these different species coexist in the same jungle, even with the shared goal of building a great product, clashes are inevitable. And it's exactly from these tensions that creativity and innovation burst forth. Imagine a familiar scenario, engineer versus product manager. The PM brings a new customer request, a game-changing feature needed in 2 weeks. The engineer looks at it and groans. This will take at least 2 months, maybe more, if we need to restructure half the system. The PM thinks he's overcomplicating everything, while the engineer she thinks everything is as simple as clicking a button. This is the battle between execution and market demands, between technical feasibility and product vision. Design versus engineering. The designer presents a stunning interface with smooth animations and beautiful details. The engineer looks at it and says, sure, it's doable, but it will eat resources, take a long time, and might not run well on older devices. The designer feels creativity is being killed. The engineer feels dragged into unrealistic expectations. This is the tension between aesthetics, user experience, and technical constraints. Product design versus marketing, sales marketing lands a big deal on the condition that features ABC are delivered next quarter. Product and design stare at each other, but ABC aren't on the roadmap. We're prioritizing XYZ for user experience. Sales wants to close deals. Product design want to build the right product. This is the clash between short-term revenue and long-term product vision. These conflicts aren't negative. In fact, they're fuel for growth. Each species brings different perspectives and priorities. Engineers ensure stability and scalability. PMs ensure product market fit and business value. Designers ensure clarity, beauty, and positive user experience. Marketing ensures the product reaches the right people. When these groups learn to listen, understand, and respect one another, sometimes through heated debates, sometimes through painful compromises, that's when real magic happens. They learn to translate for each other, find common ground, and build something far greater than any individual team could create alone. This diversity of thought and roles is what powers the ever-evolving ecosystem of the Silicon Jungle. Understanding these species, understanding how they interact, that's the key to navigating the tech jungle effectively, whether you're in the industry or simply a curious observer. In the next chapter, we'll dive into the rules of the jungle, the unwritten principles and core values that have shaped Silicon Valley's culture of work and innovation. Don't miss it. Welcome back to the Silicon Jungle, the tech jungle we've been exploring together. If the previous chapters revealed its wild beauty and seductive opportunities, then in Chapter 5 we're going to dive into a side that few people want to admit, a sweet trap called the trap of constant innovation. Speaking personally, after years of wading through the tech world, I've realized that innovation, while absolutely the backbone of progress, is very much a double-edged sword. On one hand, it pushes us toward the impossible. On the other, the pressure to always be new, always be growing, can drag us into a never-ending spiral with consequences we don't fully anticipate, for both the products we create and the society we're shaping. 1. Features over fixes culture building. New rooms on a cracked foundation. Everyone wants their product to feel fresh, to have breakthrough features that stand out and attract users. Venture capitalists usually care most about explosive growth metrics and killer features that can change the game. But in that non-stop race, we've accidentally created a toxic culture, features over fixes, prioritizing new features over fixing what's broken and polishing what already exists. Picture this: you're building your dream house. Instead of spending time reinforcing the foundation, repairing cracks in the walls, or upgrading the old electrical and plumbing systems, you're constantly adding new rooms, new balconies, maybe even a fancy swimming pool. Sounds cool, right? But sooner or later, that house becomes a patchwork mess, heavy, unstable, and dangerously fragile. In tech, this shows up as apps that keep getting bigger and slower packed, with features most users never touch. Tiny bugs don't get fixed, sluggish performance never gets optimized, and overly complex interfaces don't get simplified. Instead, we rush to build a shiny new feature that becomes just another glossy coat of paint slapped on top of a crumbling structure. What happens then? Users get frustrated with the bad experience. Engineers drown in technical debt, the burden of quick, messy decisions made to ship features without investing in long-term stability. Team morale takes a hit too. Who doesn't want to work on cool new stuff? But when you're constantly patching a weak system, your sense of pride and craftsmanship slowly erodes. I've seen more than a few startups, and even big-name companies get stuck in this loop and turn their products into monuments of bloat instead of examples of elegance. 2. The constant pivot syndrome. A ship with no harbor. When we talk about innovation and agility, we can't ignore another phenomenon that's become almost a miracle cure in startup culture: the pivot. The original idea behind it is great if an idea isn't working. Be nimble enough to change direction, find a new market, a new business model. Sometimes that's necessary. It's literally what keeps a startup alive. But all too often it turns into a habit, a reflex whenever things get tough or a new trend pops up. Pressure from investors demanding explosive growth, fear of being left behind by competitors, or simple impatience with long-term building turns pivot from an emergency strategy into a way of life. And that's where it starts destroying team spirit. Imagine pouring your heart, time, and energy into building something. You believe in it. You're invested in it. Then suddenly it's all swept off the table. We're doing this now. The old project, forget it, that's in the past. Doubt creeps in, then exhaustion, and worst of all, a sense of meaninglessness. Why give it your all if everything can change overnight? Who wants to stay on a ship that never stops changing course and never actually docks anywhere? Constant pivoting doesn't just drain financial resources, it drains the most precious resource of all people's trust and motivation. The product suffers too. It loses its identity, its focus. Every pivot is a new beginning, often stitched together with leftover pieces of old ideas that don't really fit the new direction. The result is a fragmented product, with no clear vision, unable to carve out a strong position in users' minds. 3. What is real innovation, and is it always progress? This is the core question of the entire chapter. We've become so obsessed with the word innovation that we've lost sight of what it really means. Everything has to be new, better, faster, more connected. But does that always equal progress? Is adding a flashy new button, integrating a random API just to brag about it, or releasing a new version that only changes the color scheme really innovation? Or is that just fake innovation, a way of creating the appearance of progress while leaving the real problems untouched? Sometimes innovation means removing what's unnecessary to create something simpler and more effective. The original iPhone is a classic example. It didn't cram in every possible feature. It simplified the experience and stripped away complexity. Sometimes innovation isn't about adding more. It's about making a product more stable, more secure, more accessible to everyone. Sometimes it's about sustainability, fairness, and responsibility toward the environment and society. Caught up in the intoxication of growth and the pressure to always innovate, we've stopped asking the basic questions. What are we actually building? What is its real purpose? Does it genuinely make life better? Or are we just adding more complexity, more distraction, and new problems we haven't even begun to understand? Maybe real innovation lies in our willingness to ask those questions, in daring to pause and think instead of blindly charging forward, in challenging Silicon Valley's unwritten rule that faster, more, newer is always better. In a world obsessed with speed, not innovating, or innovating slowly, deliberately, might actually be the boldest form of innovation. It's a shift in mindset, a redefinition of what truly matters. The trap of constant innovation doesn't lie in innovation itself, but in our obsession with it, in the invisible yet immense pressure to always be new, always be growing. It pushes us to trade quality for quantity, purpose for trends, and real value for shiny appearances. As insiders, we need to be more clear-eyed. We need to learn how to distinguish real innovation from meaningless change. We need to be brave enough to stop and take an honest look at our products and our work culture, and ask, are we building a better world or just a more bloated, complicated, and hollow version of what already exists? In Chapter 6, we'll dive deeper into another dark side of the tech world, our obsession with data and how it shapes and even manipulates our behavior. See you there. Welcome back to the Silicon Jungle. In the previous chapters, we explored the glamour, the breakthrough ideas, and the brutal battles to claim the tech throne. Today, I want us to dive deeper into a hidden corner, a dimension that in the non-stop grind of this world, we often forget about. It's the price human beings have to pay. This isn't just a story about chips, lines of code, or billion-dollar deals. This is a story about people, about minds, and more importantly, about hearts that are struggling to keep up. Today we're stepping into Chapter 6, the burnout epidemic, the price of ambition. I remember once sitting next to a friend of mine, a talented software engineer in Silicon Valley. He told me there were mornings when he woke up feeling like all his energy had been drained overnight. Not the usual tiredness after a long workday, but a kind of constant exhaustion that clung to him even right after waking up. A sense of emptiness. No joy. No meaning in the work he was doing, even though it used to be his greatest passion. He was describing, very honestly, burnout. So what is burnout, really, especially in this harsh tech culture? It's not just being tired or stressed. Burnout is a state of physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion, usually caused by prolonged stress and overload at work. In the Silicon jungle, where working 24/7 is sometimes seen as a badge of dedication, and the signs of burnout become even more subtle and harder to recognize. So what are those signs? First, there is chronic exhaustion. Like my friend's story, that feeling of never really recovering, no matter how much you sleep. Your body feels like a machine that's run out of oil, and your mind feels heavy weighed down. Second, there is declining performance and loss of interest. The projects that once excited you, the problems that used to spark your curiosity now just feel like a burden. You start procrastinating more, making more mistakes, and your ability to focus drops sharply. Eventually, you feel bored, detached, and indifferent toward the very work you once took pride in. Third, there is cynicism and negativity. You become more pessimistic, irritable, and you start losing faith in yourself and in the people around you. Feeling disconnected from coworkers, friends, even family is also very common. You no longer want to meet people. You withdraw from social activities. And finally, and this part often gets ignored, there are physical health issues. Burnout isn't just in your head. It shows up as constant headaches, insomnia, digestive issues, even a weakened immune system that makes you get sick more easily. Your body is screaming, but we often choose to ignore it. So what pushes us to this edge? The root causes of the burnout epidemic in tech aren't just about working long hours. It's a complex web of culture expectations and internal pressure. First, there's the relentless workload. In an environment where deadlines pile on top of deadlines, where innovation is the North Star, and where failure is an option usually for someone else, you are constantly racing against the market and against your own limits. The expectation that you must always outperform yourself, always build something new and better, makes it nearly impossible to ever feel enough. Next, we have hustle culture and the always-on mindset. Silicon Valley has cultivated a culture where working 12, 14 hours a day, replying to emails at 11 p.m., or pulling all-nighters to hit a milestone is considered normal. Sometimes it's even celebrated as a symbol of dedication and commitment. We are constantly connected, constantly stimulated by notifications, with almost no quiet space for our minds to rest and recover. But the deepest and most dangerous cause is that we equate our self-worth with our professional achievements. In a world where success is measured by job titles, bank accounts, and startup valuations, we start believing that our identity and our dignity depend on what we accomplish. If a project fails, if you don't get promoted, if your company can't raise money, it doesn't just feel like a work failure. It feels like you are a failure. That belief creates a toxic loop we work ourselves to the bone to prove our worth. But the more we work, the more exhausted we become. And the more exhausted we are, the more worthless we feel. On top of that, there's FOMO, fear of missing out, and what we might call FOCO, fear of catching on. Not keeping up. Seeing younger, talented colleagues constantly hitting big milestones, we quietly raise the bar on ourselves. We tell ourselves we have to run faster, work harder, do more just to avoid falling behind. I've heard many stories, painful ones, about people breaking down in this Silicon jungle. I can't share names, but I can share fragments. There was a young software engineer praised by everyone as a prodigy. He worked non-stop, barely slept, lived on coffee and takeout. Everyone admired his dedication. Until one day things started to unravel: severe insomnia, paranoia, and eventually a psychiatric hospitalization. The whole team was in shock. No one imagined that someone so talented, so full of energy, could collapse so completely. He had traded his mental health for recognition and status, only to end up in a place where he couldn't enjoy any of it. Another story is about a senior manager, a woman who always appeared strong and composed. She handled every crisis calmly, always the rock for her team. But inside, she was carrying a crushing weight, the need to maintain a perfect image, to always be the best. One morning, she couldn't get out of bed. Tears just kept coming and she couldn't stop them. She felt completely drained without a single drop of energy left for anything. That was the moment she realized she had pushed herself past her limit and sacrificed too much. And then there are the startup founders, the ones who carry a burning desire to change the world. The load on their shoulders isn't just about product or revenue. It's also about the dozens or hundreds of employees relying on them. One founder told me there were nights he woke up with his heart racing and sweat pouring down, terrified of failure. He endured years of chronic insomnia, watched his personal relationships crumble, and eventually his health broke down. His startup succeeded, but the price he paid was far too high. These stories aren't just warnings. They're reminders. Behind every prodigy, every tech hero, there is a human being with limits. Mental health is not a luxury. It's the foundation of any kind of sustainable success. So what can we do? The most important thing is to recognize the early signs and allow ourselves to be vulnerable. Burnout is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you've pushed yourself too hard for too long. Second, set clear boundaries between work and personal life. Learn to say no to unnecessary after-hours requests. Turn off work notifications after a certain time. Protect quality time for yourself, your family, and your personal hobbies. Third, don't be afraid to seek support. Talk to friends, family, or even a therapist. You are not alone in this, and there are many people who genuinely want to help. Reaching out for professional help is not failure. It's a courageous and intelligent choice. And finally, redefine success. Success isn't just money status or download numbers. Success is also balance, health, personal happiness, and the ability to maintain a full, meaningful life. Remember, you are not a machine. You are a human being with basic needs for rest, recovery, and connection. The burnout epidemic isn't just an individual tragedy. It's a systemic problem that demands collective recognition and change. The price of ambition, if left unchecked, can be the complete depletion of you as a person. Our value doesn't come from how many hours we work, but from who we are, our ability to think, to create, and to connect with the world. So listen to your body. Listen to your mind. Give yourself permission to rest, to heal. Because a truly sustainable silicon jungle isn't a place where only the tallest trees survive. It's a place where every living being, including the people working tirelessly behind the scenes, can grow in a healthy way. And once we understand this price, the next question is, how do we build a more sustainable work culture, one where mental health comes first? We'll explore that together in the next chapter. Thank you for listening. See you again in the Silicon Jungle. Hello, my friends, my fellow travelers on this journey through the Silicon Jungle. We've already explored the towering canopies of innovation, the powerful currents of capital, and even the rare creatures known as unicorn startups. But today, we need to stop. We're going to turn onto a path far fewer people walk, a trail hidden under dense foliage, where light struggles to break through. It leads us to Chapter 7, a moral compass gone off course. It's true, if the previous chapters were about glamour and potential, then this chapter is a direct reminder of the price we pay, the price that society as a whole is paying and will continue to pay when the moral compass of the tech industry spins wildly in the storm of growth and profit. Let's start with a philosophy you've probably heard before, a phrase that has become a slogan, sometimes even a curse for many people in tech. Ask for forgiveness, not permission. Sounds pretty badass, right? It conjures up the image of a pioneer, a rule breaker charging ahead to build something new, unshackled by slow, outdated systems. At the beginning, Grace Hopper, one of the great pioneers of computing, may have said this to encourage innovation, to prevent bureaucracy from killing bold ideas. But in the 21st century Silicon jungle, that philosophy has been twisted. It has become a shield for irresponsible behavior, an excuse for tech companies to experiment on billions of users, to harvest personal data recklessly, to unleash algorithms without rigorous ethical review, and to push products into the world without understanding their far-reaching social consequences. Just do it, and if something goes wrong, we'll deal with it later. That's the unspoken spirit. And the fallout. We've seen it all too clearly. Massive data breaches that leave millions of users vulnerable to identity theft. Social media platforms deliberately engineered to be addictive, worsening mental health issues among young people, distorting truth and deepening social divisions. Biased algorithms that don't just skew search results, but also affect job opportunities, access to credit, and even outcomes in the justice system. Technology, which once promised to liberate, has in many cases become a tool of manipulation, a machine creating problems more complex than the ones it claimed it would solve. On one hand, I understand that hunger for speed. In a world that changes, this fast move fast and break things seems like a survival requirement. But on the other hand, I can't ignore the chill that runs down my spine when I look at the consequences of this mindset. It's like building a bridge without testing whether the materials are safe, just because you want to be the first to finish it. When the bridge collapses, you apologize. But what about the people who already crossed it? So who's responsible? This is the second big question we have to face. Technologists, talented engineers, creative product developers, what responsibility do they bear in anticipating and reducing the harm caused by their creations? Or are they simply tool builders, neutral and detached, leaving responsibility to users or policymakers? In reality, no one can honestly claim to be neutral when their product can shape the lives of billions. A knife can slice bread, but it can also hurt someone. What responsibility does the knife maker have? At the very least, to warn about its sharpness, and ideally to design it as safely as possible. In tech, that responsibility is even heavier because of how complex and large-scale these products are. I ask myself, how many times have we as product creators actually stopped to ask, what is the worst thing that could happen if this product is used at global scale? Or could this algorithm accidentally discriminate based on race, gender, or socioeconomic status? How many times have we refused to build a feature or a data collection strategy simply because it crossed a moral line, even if it promised huge profits? Anticipating harm is not easy. Often negative consequences only become obvious once a product has launched and spread widely. But that doesn't mean we get to look away. The responsibility of technologists doesn't end at it works. It extends to it works ethically, and it works in service of the common good. That requires foresight, humility to admit we can't control everything, and courage to ask hard questions, even if it means pushing back against investors or leadership. And that brings us to the final core question, one that nags at us and has no simple answer. How do we find our moral compass again in this brutal race for market share and profit? In the Silicon jungle, where everything is measured in user growth, revenue, and stock price, ethics is often treated as a burden, a drag on progress. How do you convince a company to walk away from a highly profitable feature with ethical issues when their competitors are perfectly willing to exploit it? And yet, I believe the moral compass is not gone forever. It's just buried, hidden beneath the flash of the spotlight and the cheers of the market. To find it again, we need deep change from the individual level to the organizational level, all the way up to society as a whole. At the individual level, every engineer, every designer, every product manager needs to become an informal ethicist. They need tools and frameworks to evaluate the ethical impact of their work. They need to have a voice and be encouraged to voice ethical concerns instead of being shut down by the pressure to just get it done. At the corporate level, companies need to weave ethical thinking into every stage of the product life cycle, from the earliest idea to launch and long-term maintenance. That might mean creating independent ethics boards, designing with ethics in mind. From the start, investing in research on the social impact of products and building a culture where ethics is valued as highly as profit. Diversity within teams is also crucial because different perspectives help reveal ethical blind spots that a homogeneous group might completely miss. And at the societal level, we need regulators and governments to step in and create legal guardrails, clear rules for data privacy responsibilities for platforms in handling harmful content, and transparency requirements for algorithms. Pressure from consumers and civil society organizations is also key in holding companies accountable. The moral compass doesn't magically appear. It is the sum of our daily choices, our hard conversations, and the brave decisions we make both as creators and as users of technology. We can't keep chasing growth metrics while abandoning people. We can't keep building a more convenient world at the cost of a less humane one. I believe we can and must find that moral compass again. Because in the end, technology is not just about what we can build. It's about the kind of world we want to live in and the values we choose to protect. The real question isn't whether we can do something, but whether we should do it. And the way we answer that question will shape the future of the Silicon Jungle and of humanity itself. Thank you for listening. See you in the next chapter. Welcome back to our channel, and today we're going to continue our journey through the fascinating but also challenging Silicon Jungle. I'm your guide, and in this Chapter 8, we're going to dive into a hugely important topic: sharpening your smart survival instincts. My friends, after we've spent time understanding how this jungle operates, it's time to equip ourselves with the skills and instincts we need, not just to survive, but to grow stronger and thrive. Think about it when an animal enters a new environment. What's its first instinct? It looks for food, water, shelter. But more importantly, it learns how to adapt. It doesn't try to change the jungle. It changes itself to fit the jungle and to find its own advantages. In our Silicon Jungle, raw strength, or in other words, clinging stubbornly to an old way of thinking or an outdated skill, won't take you very far. What we need is intelligent self-awareness and a set of survival instincts that have been sharpened over time. Today we're going to walk through 3 main pillars of these smart survival instincts: the skill of continuous learning, the art of building alliances and finding mentors, and finally, how to spot and avoid common traps in your career and workplace culture. Let's get started. 1. Continuous learning, the most essential survival instinct. If you really think about it, the Silicon Jungle is unlike any other forest on Earth. It never stops changing. Today, a giant old tree might stand tall and proud. Tomorrow, it might be swallowed up by a new fast-growing vine. A familiar trail can disappear overnight, washed away by a new current. In an environment like that, staying still is a slow death. That's why continuous learning isn't just nice advice or an optional habit. It's an absolutely essential survival instinct. Think of it as a sharp knife you always carry with you. The jungle changes, but your knife, your ability to learn and adapt, helps you cut new paths, discover new resources, and even turn threats into opportunities. Continuous learning isn't just about signing up for another online course or picking up a new technical book. It goes much deeper than that. It's a mental state, a constant curiosity about the world around you. First, build yourself an informal personal learning schedule. You don't need another degree. Just set aside 30 minutes a day to read industry articles, listen to podcasts, or watch talks from experts. It may feel small, but over time, it compounds into a huge reservoir of knowledge. Second, actively seek out new experiences, even when they're outside your comfort zone. Volunteer for a project you've never done before. Sign up for a workshop on a technology you've never used. Challenge yourself with a new programming language or a new management method. I remember a time when I was terrified of public speaking. But I forced myself to join small presentations, speak up in team meetings, and slowly the confidence came. Every stumble was a lesson. Third, learn from failures. This might be the most powerful form of learning. In the Silicon Jungle, failure isn't a period, it's a comma. It's a turning point. Analyze what went wrong, extract concrete lessons, and apply them next time. Don't be afraid of failing. Be afraid of walking away from failure without learning anything. And finally, always maintain a growth mindset. That means believing your abilities and intelligence are not fixed, that they can grow through effort and practice. When you internalize this mindset, every challenge becomes an opportunity to learn and grow. Continuous learning doesn't mean chasing every trend. It means building the capacity to understand and adapt to any trend. It's your compass and your map in this ever-shifting jungle. 2. Building alliances and finding mentors. The power of the pack. In nature, a lone wolf has a much harder time surviving than a wolf in a pack. In the Silicon Jungle, trying to fight every battle alone is a recipe for burnout and failure. That's why our second instinct is the ability to build alliances and find mentors. This is how you tap into support resources and collective intelligence. About alliances. Alliances don't mean secret deals or cliques. Alliances are genuine relationships built on trust, mutual respect, and win-win value. First, be intentional about connecting with people. Not just those above you on the ladder, but peers, people in other departments, people with different expertise. Learn what they do. Listen to their challenges. A sincere, "How's your work going?" or a conversation about a shared interest can be the start of a valuable relationship. Second, become someone who adds value to your network. Don't just think about what you can get, think about what you can give. Do you know a tool that a coworker is struggling with? Can you introduce two people who might benefit from working together? When you give, you eventually receive. Relationships are a two-way street. Third, build bridges, not wall. In a competitive environment, it's easy to go into defensive mode and wall yourself off. Try the opposite. Be the person who opens up the circle, shares information where appropriate, and looks for opportunities to collaborate. I have a friend who isn't the smartest in the room or the most technically gifted, but he is incredible at connecting people. He's always the first to introduce two people who can help one another, always the one sharing useful information. And when he needs help, doors open. That's the power of alliances. About mentors. A mentor isn't just a teacher. They're a guide, someone who's already walked the path you're on and can shine a light on the blind corners, point out shortcuts, and warn you about hidden dangers. Finding a mentor isn't about asking for a title. Don't start with, "Will you be my mentor?" Instead, look for people you genuinely admire, people with experience in the area you want to grow in. Start by building a natural relationship. Approach them sincerely, show real interest in their work and experience. Start with a specific question about a problem you're facing. Invite them for a coffee chat or listen closely when they speak at internal events. When you get time with them, be prepared. Come with concrete, meaningful questions. This shows respect for their time and that you're serious about learning. Be a proactive and grateful mentee. Don't make your mentor feel like they're wasting their time. Act on their advice and later come back and share your progress. A sincere, timely thank you goes further than you think. Recognize there are different types of mentors. Not every mentor has to be a CEO or someone with a fancy title. You can have mentors for skills for navigating company culture, for work-life balance, or even peer mentors, people at your level, but with different experiences. Remember, no one is an island. The strength of your community and the guidance of those who've gone before you are invaluable assets for surviving and thriving in the silicon jungle. 3. Spotting and avoiding common traps, reading the danger sign. We've talked about equipping yourself and building your network. Now it's time to learn how to read the danger signs, the traps hidden under the lush greenery of the silicon jungle. These are the things that can throw you off course, drain your motivation, or even derail your career. Smart survival instincts require the ability to recognize and sidestep them. Trap number 1, toxic hustle culture. This is one of the easiest traps to fall into, especially in tech companies and startups, where working 12-14 hours a day, pulling all-nighters, and valuing hours worked over actual impact can become a twisted badge of honor. How to recognize it? You feel guilty for leaving work on time. Co-workers constantly brag about how late they stayed up working. You feel an invisible pressure to always be busy. How to avoid it? Set clear boundaries between work and your personal life. Prioritize your physical and mental health. Understand that productivity comes from focus and smart time management, not from blindly working the longest hours. Be the person who works smart, not just the one who works the most. Trap number 2, obsession with the latest trend without a solid foundation. The silicon jungle is full of gold rushes, AI blockchain, the metaverse Web 3, and whatever comes next. Many people dive in head first without really understanding what they're dealing with, driven only by fear of being left behind. How to recognize it? You feel like you have to know everything about every new buzzword. You're constantly anxious that your current skills will become obsolete overnight. How to avoid it? Stay curious, but be critical. Always come back to the fundamentals. Learn to evaluate whether a trend has real substance or is just hype. Invest in building a strong foundation, not just chasing the surface. Understand why a technology matters, not just what it is. Trap number 3. The comparison trap. In an environment full of high achievers, it's incredibly easy to fall into the habit of constantly comparing your title, salary, or achievements with others. Social media only amplifies this. How to recognize it? You often feel not good enough, jealous, or disappointed in yourself when a coworker gets promoted or lands a big project. How to avoid it? Focus on your own journey. The only comparison that truly matters is you today versus you yesterday. Celebrate your small wins. Everyone has their own pace and their own path. Trap number 4. Toxic work environments. Sometimes you accidentally end up in a place where respect is lacking. Gossip is rampant, competition is cutthroat, or weak leadership poisons the culture. How to recognize it? You feel constant tension, have trouble sleeping, or dread going to work. Co-workers are always complaining, productivity is dropping, and transparency is nowhere to be found. How to avoid it? This is one of the most dangerous traps. Learn to spot the signs early. Don't waste your energy trying to fix a deeply toxic environment by yourself. Sometimes the smartest move is to find a different jungle one where you can breathe and grow. Your mental health comes first. Trap number 5. Comfort zone and complacency. After a string of successes, or once you've reached a certain position, it's very easy to slip into comfort. You stop learning, stop challenging yourself, and avoid change. How to recognize it? You feel too comfortable. You start turning down challenging projects. You stop seeking new information or skills. How to avoid it? Set new goals for yourself. Look for small challenges each day. Join discussions, debates, and problem-solving sessions to keep your mind sharp. The comfort zone feels nice, but it's not where growth happens. The point of identifying these traps isn't to make you paranoid. It's to give you a clear-eyed view and solid preparation. A great explorer doesn't just know how to find treasure, they also know how to avoid the deadly traps along the way. So, my friends, we've explored the pillars of smart survival instincts in the silicon jungle. This is not a checklist of life hacks to win the game. It's a philosophy, a deliberate, conscious way of approaching your career and your life. Continuous learning isn't a chore, it's your daily oxygen. Building alliances and seeking mentors isn't manipulation, it's the art of human connection. And spotting traps isn't about fear, it's about awareness and self-respect. Remember, the silicon jungle can be harsh, but it's also full of opportunity and beauty. With these smart survival instincts, you won't just survive, you'll stretch, grow, leave your own mark, and fully enjoy your journey through it. Ask yourself, what will I learn today? Who will I connect with? And what traps might be waiting that I need to avoid? In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into how to find your own unique voice and how to build a career path that's truly yours, not just a copy of someone else's template. Don't miss it. Thank you for listening. See you in the next video. Welcome back to our channel. I'm your companion on this journey through this vast technology jungle, a place where dreams take flight, but where the challenges are just as real. We've already wandered beneath the towering canopies of giant corporations, followed the narrow, ambitious paths of young startups, and even stared down the predators lurking in the shadows. But now, after traveling such a long distance together, there's a question that might be echoing in many of your minds. Is the ultimate goal really to become the king of this jungle? Today we're going to open a completely new Chapter 1 that might redefine our entire adventure. I call it Chapter 9, Leaving the Jungle, Redefining Success. 1. The jungle is not the entire world. In the Silicon Jungle, we've seen clearly how harsh and seductive the tech environment can be. It pushes us to be faster, smarter, and sometimes more ruthless. Success here is often defined by billion-dollar startups, headline-grabbing M&A deals, or high-level executive titles at prestigious companies. But is that really all there is? I don't think so. The ultimate goal isn't always to win, according to the jungle's rules. Sometimes it's about finding your own path, a path that may lead you to the edge of the forest, where the sunlight is softer and the air is easier to breathe. Or maybe it's about building an entirely new ecosystem, one where you set the rules and where success is defined by you, not by the jungle. 2. Exploring alternative paths outside the golden glass cage. Let's face a simple truth. Not everyone is meant to be a billion-dollar startup founder or to work 80-hour weeks at a big tech company until they burn out, and that is perfectly okay. The world outside is much bigger than that, and the tech skills you've sharpened in this jungle are valuable far beyond any glass-walled office. Working for nonprofits and social impact organizations. Imagine using your skills in software development, data analysis, or UX design to tackle urgent social issues. You could help an environmental nonprofit track climate change more effectively, build an app that connects homeless individuals with local resources, or create an education platform for kids in underserved areas. The paycheck might not match big techs, but the sense of purpose and the social impact you create can be priceless. This is using your intelligence and creativity to build a better world, not just a more profitable one. Starting a small business or becoming a freelancer. This is the path for those who crave freedom, autonomy, and a direct connection to the results of their work. You could become an independent developer, building websites for small businesses, a digital marketing specialist, helping local shops grow, or even a content creator leveraging tech tools to build your own brand. You control your time, your projects, and most importantly, your definition of success. Work-life balance, joy in your craft, and seeing your clients genuinely happy, that's also a form of success that's every bit as real and meaningful. Applying tech skills to more traditional fields. Don't box yourself into the usual tech jungle. Your skills in logic, problem-solving, data analysis, and automation are powerful assets that can transform almost any industry. In healthcare, building smart medical record systems, health tracking apps. In education, creating interactive learning tools, online training platforms. In agriculture, developing AI-driven farm management systems, smart sensors for crops. In art and culture, using technology to create interactive experiences or digitize works of art. You're not just bringing tech into these fields, you're also bringing a fresh, innovative way of thinking. 3. The importance of redefining success on your own terms. So how do we begin this journey? Step 1. The most important step is to pause and ask yourself, what actually matters to me? In the tech jungle, success is often written in someone else's language. Investors, competitors, influencers. They talk about exits, valuations, market share. But happiness, fulfillment, and inner peace rarely show up on any growth chart. Clarify your personal values. Do you care deeply about work-life balance? Is freedom and autonomy a top priority for you? Do you want your work to directly contribute to your community or a larger social cause? How much do creativity and innovation matter to you? Do you want more time for family hobbies or personal growth? Are you tired of constantly feeling like you have to keep up with everyone else? Write these values down. They are your compass. Redefine success based on those values. Once you know what truly matters to you, redefine success around it. Success might be earning enough to live comfortably while still having the freedom to pursue your passions instead of endlessly chasing more money. Waking up excited because your work feels meaningful. Having the time and energy to be present with loved ones and do things that bring you joy. Building a small but high-quality product or service that solves a real problem for a specific group of people, instead of trying to go big at any cost. Feeling at peace and confident in your choices instead of getting dragged into the cycle of comparison and competition. Money, status, power, those things are visible and easy to measure. But real happiness and fulfillment are personal experiences. You can't buy them. 4. Inspiring stories. Proof that there is a way out. I've seen and heard about many people who have successfully left the jungle, not as failures, but as pioneers, people who chose to build their own version of success. The non-profit founder. A friend of mine used to be a senior software engineer at a major tech company, earning what many would call a dream salary. But inside, he felt empty. After years of wrestling with that feeling, he left to start a non-profit that uses AI to analyze water pollution data in developing countries. He told me that even though his income dropped significantly, he wakes up every morning feeling more motivated and fulfilled than ever before. He found his mission, the small business owner. Another friend, a talented UX designer, once worked at a hot unicorn startup. She was caught in the constant grind under pressure from funding rounds and growth targets. Eventually, she opened her own boutique design studio, focusing on traditional businesses going digital. She finds her own clients, runs her own projects, and most importantly, she can spend her afternoons picking up her kid from school and going to her favorite yoga class. She's no longer obsessed with conquering the world. She's focused on creating quality work and living a life she actually enjoys. The cross-field innovator. A former data analyst left the tech industry to work for a national museum. He uses his data skills to understand visitor behavior, improve exhibit layouts, and even build VR experiences to bring history closer to the public. He found a way to blend his passion for history with his tech expertise, carving out a unique, deeply satisfying career path. These are just a few of many stories that prove there are countless ways to achieve success and happiness. Leaving the jungle is not a sign of defeat. It's a courageous, intelligent choice made when you're mature enough to recognize that you are the one who defines your own worth. My friends, the tech jungle can be an incredible place to learn, grow, and push your limits. But never forget, it's only one part of the bigger picture. Don't let the noise and the externally imposed definitions of success drown out your inner voice. Take the time to listen to yourself, to understand your core values and what truly brings you joy. Maybe your path isn't the fastest racetrack, but a smaller trail shaded by trees leading to a calmer, more fulfilling place. Maybe you will be the one to create an entirely new ecosystem, where success is measured by meaning, balance, and joy, not just by cold numbers. Start the journey of redefining success on your own terms, because your path is yours, and it's worth more than any crown in the jungle. See you in the next chapter. Hello there, and welcome back to the Silicon Jungle. We've journeyed together through deep valleys and steep ridges, exploring every corner of this vast technological forest, from its wild origins to its strange singular species, to the brutal survival battles between them. But today, now that we've absorbed the lessons of the past and present, I want you to pause with me for a moment. Look up at the old-growth trees stretching into the blue sky, and try to imagine, what will the future of this forest look like? Will it evolve into a civilized, sustainable, harmonious ecosystem? Or will it regress into a kind of aimless wilderness, where survival of the fittest is once again the only rule that matters? That is the big question of Chapter 10. The future of the forest. Evolution or regression? I remember when I first stumbled into this forest, everything seemed to revolve around speed, relentless innovation, and one single goal: growth at all costs. It felt like a primeval jungle where every tree was just trying to shoot as high as possible, grabbing as much light as it could, with little concern for what was happening around it. But now, I've started to notice signs of change, new sprouts pushing up from the ground, carrying with them a very different vision. One of the clearest trends we can't ignore is the powerful rise of responsible tech. This is no longer some distant concept or an empty buzzword. It's slowly becoming a guiding philosophy, a new gene being grafted into the forest's DNA. Companies from tiny startups to giant tech corporations are beginning to realize that simply building a good product or service is no longer enough. They have to care about the social, ethical, and environmental impact of what they create. Think about AI ethics. The conversation is no longer just about how to make AI smarter. It's about how to make it fairer, less biased, and respectful of human privacy. Or take data protection. It's no longer a few tiny lines buried in a terms of service. No one reads, but a strict legal requirement and an ethical promise from developers. Even reducing the environmental footprint of massive data centers and dealing responsibly with e-waste are becoming real priorities. It's as if the loggers of the old days, who only knew how to cut trees, are now learning how to replant forests, and even how to design entire ecosystems to grow more sustainably. The forest is slowly learning how to self-regulate, how to heal some of the wounds it inflicted on itself. Alongside this wave of responsible tech, another fresh wind has blown through the old canopies and changed the way we operate in this forest remote work. The COVID-19 pandemic may have been the spark, but the trend had been smoldering for a long time. And now it's everywhere. Those giant office buildings, those gleaming tech palaces, are no longer the only places where value gets created. People are no longer confined by geography or glass walls. This shift has broken down geographic barriers and created a level of diversity in talent we've never seen before. A brilliant engineer in a small town can now meaningfully contribute to a global project without ever relocating to Silicon Valley. That doesn't just give individuals more flexibility and better work-life balance. It also lets companies tap into a far wider talent pool, no longer constrained by location. What used to be a forest with just a few main trails leading to the center has become a network of countless small paths branching out in every direction, connecting individuals in ways we couldn't have imagined before. Yes, there are still challenges around culture connection and collaboration, but it's clearly a major step forward toward a more fair distribution of opportunity and resources. And then we can't ignore a trend that's reshaping the power structure of the forest itself: decentralization. With the rise of blockchain Web3 and decentralized autonomous organizations, DAO's power is no longer concentrated in a handful of massive old trees that can overshadow the entire ecosystem. Instead, it's being spread out across smaller trees, individual participants, creating a more complex, diverse, and potentially resilient ecosystem. Decentralization promises a future where users have far more control over their data and digital assets. Transactions become more transparent, fairer, and less dependent on powerful centralized intermediaries. It's like moving from a forest ruled by a single king to one where many small communities and many different species can self-govern and grow according to their own rules while still existing within a larger ecosystem. This opens the door to entirely new business and social models where cooperation and shared ownership can challenge traditional centralized power structures. Of course, this part of the forest is still wild and experimental, much of it uncharted and unproven, but its potential is enormous. But then, who will actually guide this forest through such deep transformations? Who will be the ones to cultivate it so it truly evolves instead of falling apart? I believe the answer is the next generation of talent, the new seedlings that are growing up and preparing to take on key roles. This generation, with its energy, idealism, and global perspective, doesn't just care about profit and growth metrics. They're digital natives who have seen both the miracles and the dark sides of technology. They care deeply about values, about the meaning of their work, and about the impact technology has on society and the environment. They're not just tech users, they're architects, designers, and builders. They carry within them the DNA of a greener, healthier forest that values biodiversity and seeks balance between growth and preservation. They'll be the ones to rewrite the rules, to set new standards for transparency, ethics, and sustainability. Their role isn't just to create new technologies. It's to create a new future for the forest itself, one where technology serves humanity in a more responsible, human-centered way. The future of this forest, my friend, is not a fixed destiny. It's not a pre-drawn path we're doomed to follow. It's a choice. A choice that all of us, each individual who is part of this ecosystem, can influence and shape. Will we allow the wild rules of blind competition and profit at all costs to keep dominating? Or will we work together to cultivate new values and new principles so this forest can grow in a more civilized, sustainable, and harmonious way? With the tools and knowledge you have, whether you're a developer, a designer, a manager, an investor, or simply someone who uses technology every day, what will you do to help grow a better forest? Will you choose evolution or quietly accept regression? Let's think about that and act on it together. See you in the next chapter. If you've been following the videos about the Silicon Jungle from the beginning, you've probably already felt just how harsh, but also how full of opportunity our modern world really is. A technological jungle where we live and work every day. That book isn't just a mirror reflecting reality. It's also a kind of potential roadmap, hinting at how we can not only survive, but actually thrive under the towering canopy and among the lurking predators. But you know how it goes. Reading a book is easy. Truly absorbing it and turning its ideas into real action is a completely different story. So many of us, myself included, have been there. We finish an amazing book, feel fired up and inspired. And then, a few days later, everything goes back to business as usual. The knowledge is still there, but we don't really know where to start when it comes to applying it to our own lives. That's exactly why in this part, we're not just going to talk about what we've learned. We're going to turn the deep insights from the Silicon Jungle into something tangible and practical, your own personal 7-day action plan. This plan is designed to help you build your own survival tools step by step so you can walk into your own jungle with confidence. Whether that jungle is your career, your relationships, or simply your personal growth journey. Let's map out this 7-day route together. Think of it as a short camping trip inside your own thinking, where each stop is a checkpoint to explore and equip yourself with what you need. Days and 1-2. Self-inventory. Identify your personal compass and define your version of success. In a thick forest, it's easy to get lost without a compass. In the Silicon Jungle, if you just chase someone else's definition of success, money status, big titles, while ignoring your inner voice, you'll end up feeling empty and burned out very quickly. These first 2 days are about giving yourself time to listen to you. This is when you come back to your core, like checking your compass before you start the journey. Step 1. List 3 to 5 core values that matter most to you. Ask yourself, what truly matters to me? Freedom, creativity, family, community impact, stability, lifelong learning. Don't overthink it. Write down whatever pops into your mind first. For example, for me, authenticity and exploration are non-negotiable values. Think about the moments when you felt genuinely happy and fulfilled, or the times you felt angry or disappointed. What was behind those emotions? Chances are your values were either being honored or violated. Step 2. Define what success means for you. What does a successful life look like to you? Not to your boss, not to your parents, not to your friends on social media. Maybe success for you isn't becoming a CEO, but having enough time to pursue your passion for photography, or being able to spend real quality time with your kids every day. Write a short paragraph or a few bullet points describing your typical successful day or your dream successful life. Include work, health, relationships, and your personal hobbies or passions. Why does this matter so much? Because once you know where your compass is pointing, you'll be less distracted by paths that look exciting on the surface, but actually go against who you are. You'll be more able to say no to opportunities that don't fit, and yes to the ones that truly feed your soul and your goals. Spend real time on this. It's the foundation for everything that comes next. Days 3 to 4. Build your toolkit. Plan to learn. 1 new skill and reach out to 1 person in your network. Once you've figured out your direction, it's time to gear up with the tools you'll need to move through the jungle. In the Silicon Jungle, adaptability and continuous learning are the most powerful tools. They help you get past unexpected obstacles and tap into new resources. Step 1. Make a plan to learn 1 new skill, even a small one. In a tech-driven world that's always changing, stopping your learning is basically the same as falling behind. Think of 1 small, practical skill you can start learning soon. It doesn't need to be a college course or a fancy certification. It could be learning how to use a new feature in Excel more effectively, picking up the basics of photo editing on your phone, understanding a new term in your industry, or reading 3 in-depth articles about a new trend. Decide exactly what that skill is and what you'll do to start learning it. For example, watch a YouTube tutorial, sign up for a free online class, read a chapter in a book. Set a specific learning goal for the next month. In my experience, the best way to start is with something small, something you can work on in 15 to 30 minutes a day. Those small wins build momentum and confidence. Step 2. Reach out to 1 person in your network and not just to ask for a job. In the jungle, you can't go it alone. The people around you, co-workers, old classmates, people you know in the industry, are incredibly valuable resources. Not just for opportunities, but for knowledge, advice, and emotional support. Choose someone you admire or someone you feel you could learn something from. Send them a genuine message or email. The goal is not to say, "Hey, can you get me a job?" but "I really respect what you do and how you think, and I'd love to learn from you." You could ask them for a small piece of advice or suggest a short coffee chat or video call where you can listen to their story in that field. For example, "I've been really impressed by the project you did on X. Would you be open to a short chat so I can learn more about how you approached Y?" This helps expand your perspective, build authentic relationships, and who knows, sometimes a simple conversation can open a door you didn't even know existed. I truly believe the real power of networking comes from sincerity and curiosity, not from trying to use people. Days 5 to 6. Protect your stamina. Create one small habit for your mental and physical health. You can have the best compass and the best tools, but if you're exhausted, you're not going far in the jungle. The silicon jungle demands stamina, and stamina comes from taking care of yourself physically and mentally. This is the part most of us tend to skip when we're caught up in the grind. Step 1. Create one small habit to protect your mental health. Choose one simple, doable activity you can practice every day to recharge mentally. Examples: meditate for 5 to 10 minutes each morning. There are tons of free apps to guide you. Keep a gratitude journal and write down 3 things you're thankful for each night. Read a physical book for 15 minutes before bed instead of scrolling your phone. Or simply sit in silence for 5 minutes and focus only on your breathing. The goal is to create a quiet space for your mind, separate from the noise and pressure of the outside world. Step 2. Create one small habit to protect your physical health. Similarly, choose one small sustainable habit to take care of your body. Examples: take a 20 to 30-minute walk each day, bonus points if you leave your phone in your pocket and actually notice the world around you. Drink enough water every day. Set reminders on your phone if needed. Stand up, stretch, and walk around for a few minutes every hour of work. Cook yourself one healthy meal at home instead of ordering out. I've gone through serious burnout before, and I only started to climb out of it when I began prioritizing tiny habits like these. Once I did, I had more energy and clarity to make better decisions and maintain performance. Remember, this isn't about turning yourself into some perfect health machine overnight. It's about building strong foundations, small habits that compound over time. Stamina doesn't come from doing everything perfectly. It comes from doing small things consistently. Day 7. Draw your map. Write down the next 3 steps in your career journey, big or small. Congrats! By now you've completed 6 days and equipped yourself with a compass tools and some stamina. Now it's time to look ahead and sketch out your map for the next stage of your journey through the jungle. The silicon jungle is not a place where you can just stand still. It pushes you to have a plan, even if that plan starts with very small steps. Step 1. Review everything you've done over the past 6 days. What core values did you discover? What's your personal definition of success? What new skill did you decide to explore? Who did you reach out to? What health habits do you want to build? Step 2. Based on that, write down 3 concrete next steps in your career journey. Remember, big or small, the key is that they're specific and actionable. Examples of small steps. Learn more about Data Tool X by watching 3 YouTube tutorials this week. Set up a coffee chat with Name next week to hear more about their career path. Write down 3 goals for next quarter focused on how I can add value to my team. Spend 30 minutes each day working on that personal project I've been putting off. Examples of bigger steps, if you're ready. Update my LinkedIn profile with my latest achievements and the new skills I'm working on. Prepare a proposal to present improvement idea Y to my manager in the next team meeting. Research 2 advanced courses or certifications related to the field I want to grow into over the next 6 months. Step 3. Set deadlines, even small ones, for each step. A goal without a deadline is just a wish. For example, finish watching the 3 tutorials by this Friday. Why is this so important? Because the jungle is always changing, and you need a flexible map to adapt. Having concrete steps helps you break through that overwhelming, where do I even start feeling, and actually begin. Those small steps done consistently build momentum and eventually lead to the big changes you're dreaming about. So there we have it, the 7-day action plan. Building your survival toolkit based on the insights from the silicon jungle. Remember, this isn't some rigid formula you have to follow perfectly. It's a framework, a starting point for you to explore, equip yourself, and shape your own path. The most important thing isn't doing every single step flawlessly. The most important thing is that you start. Start taking action. Start asking questions. Start building. Every day you're crafting another tool, sharpening another skill, and strengthening your mindset so you can stand more firmly in this technological jungle. Your life and career are long journeys, and the tools you build with your own hands today will be some of the most valuable things you carry with you along the way. Start today, don't wait. The road ahead may be challenging, but I truly believe you have the strength and the intelligence to walk it. If you found this plan helpful, don't forget to share this video with a friend, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapters. Thank you for listening and for being here. See you in the next video. So we've made our way together through the Silicon Jungle, a journey full of thorns and obstacles. Yes, but also packed with golden opportunities and deep lessons hiding beneath the glossy surface of the tech world. We've explored the unspoken rules, the invisible pressures, and the stories of growth and transformation inside an environment that never seems to stop shifting. After all of that, if I had to distill the essence of this book and everything I've shared in these videos into just 3 core lessons I truly want you to carry with you after you close your laptop or put down your phone, it would be these 3. Think of them as 3 small gems you can keep in your pocket, something you can come back to whenever you feel lost or simply need a gentle reminder on your own journey. Lesson 1. Learn the rules of the jungle. This is a system with its own logic. Understanding it is the first step to not becoming its victim. The first and probably most fundamental lesson is to recognize the forest you're actually in. The Silicon Jungle isn't just a catchy title. It really does describe the nature of the tech world. A place that's insanely competitive, brutally fast-paced, and sometimes harsher than you'd ever expect. Like any jungle, it has its own rules. Those rules might not be written down anywhere, but you can see them in how people interact, how decisions are made, and in the success and failure stories we hear over and over again. Have you ever felt like you were dropped into a game where you don't know the rules? In Silicon Valley, that feeling can be a daily reality for a lot of people. From the pressure to always move fast and break things to the non-stop hustle culture, to expectations of exponential growth. Then there's office politics. No one talks about the fundraising arms race. Plus the constant waves of new tech that can make your hard-earned skills feel outdated almost overnight. If you don't see these unwritten rules, if you blindly believe everything is as fair and transparent as you wish it were, you can go from being an active player to becoming a victim of the system. You might get pulled into the grind, sacrifice your health and personal time without really knowing why. You might feel burned out, lost, or left behind, simply because you're not reading the signals or understanding the true nature of the game. So take the time to observe, to listen, to learn. Don't be afraid to ask dumb questions. Don't hesitate to seek out mentors who've walked this path before. Understanding the rules of the jungle isn't about turning yourself into some ruthless operator with no morals. It's about learning how to navigate, intelligently protect yourself, and find your own path inside it. That's the first step in turning a harsh environment into a place where you can actually grow in a sustainable way. Lesson 2. People come first. Success isn't worth it if you have to sacrifice your mental health and your core values. Once you've recognized the jungle, the next step is to protect the most valuable thing you have, yourself. This second lesson is probably the one I want to emphasize the most, because I've seen too many friends, colleagues, and real stories from the book itself paying a painful price for what's labeled as success in Silicon Valley. In an environment where everyone talks about unicorns, exits, and changing the world, it's incredibly easy to get swept up in massive expectations. Pressure from investors, competitors, and even from your own ego to achieve success by someone else's standards can push you right to the edge. 12-hour workdays, 7 days a week. Chronic sleep deprivation. Neglecting relationships. Ignoring every warning sign from your body and mind. This is the reality for more people than you might think. But ask yourself, is that version of success really worth it if the cost is your mental health? If you're living in constant anxiety, stress, insomnia, or even depression, if you're forced to abandon the core values that make you you, your honesty, your compassion, your time with family, your simple joys, just to reach some milestone society calls impressive. I've seen some of the smartest, most talented people I know walk away from their careers because they simply couldn't carry the pressure anymore. On paper, their achievements looked amazing, but inside they were empty and deeply hurt. Real success cannot be built on a foundation of exhaustion and collapse. It has to be a sustainable journey, where you grow, you learn, you stretch yourself, but still maintain balance, clarity, and your core values. Remember, you are not a machine. You're a human being with emotions, limits, and needs. Protect your mental health. Learn to say no when you need to. Reach out for support. And don't let your passion burn itself out into ashes because you chased a goal that might never have been yours in the first place. At the end of the day, you are the most valuable asset you have. Lesson 3. You're the one holding the map. Don't blindly follow the default path. Define success for yourself and create your own trail. Finally, once you've learned to recognize the forest and protect yourself within it, it's time for the third lesson you get to shape how you move through it. This is an invitation to become a creator of your own path, not just a follower of pre-existing tracks. The Silicon Jungle might have well-trodden trails, paths thousands of people have already taken, but you are not required to walk any of them. The tech world is full of standard narratives about success, becoming the CEO of a multi-million-dollar startup, selling your company to Google, launching some product that changes the game. It's incredibly easy to get pulled into these molds and feel pressured to become a copy of someone who came before you. But here's the thing, each of us has a very personal inner compass, a unique mix of values, passions, and definitions of happiness. Blindly following the default path doesn't just blur your identity. It can lead you somewhere you never really wanted to go. You might get the title, the money, the recognition, but if it doesn't resonate with what truly matters to you, that victory will feel hollow. Be brave enough to ask yourself, what does real success look like to me? Is it financial freedom so you can pursue a personal project? Is it being able to balance work and family? Is it building a small but meaningful product for a specific community? Or creating a company culture where people feel respected and can truly grow? You are the one drawing the map for your life. You have the right to define success on your own terms, to carve out a path no one has walked before, or even to walk a familiar path, but with a totally different intention and purpose. Don't be afraid of being different. Don't be afraid to listen to your inner voice, even when it goes against the crowd. Your uniqueness, your honesty with yourself, that's exactly what will leave distinct footprints in this jungle. So these are the 3 lessons I genuinely want you to remember. From the Silicon Jungle, and from everything we've shared today. 1. Learn the rules of the jungle. Understand the game, so you're not just being played by it. 2. People come first. Never trade yourself away for any version of success. 3. You're the one holding the map. Define your own path, not someone else's. These aren't just nice-sounding tips. They're a kind of compass you can use to not only survive, but truly grow in a sustainable and meaningful way, no matter what environment you're in, not just Silicon Valley. I hope this video has given you fresh perspectives and valuable things to reflect on. Drop a comment below and tell me which lesson resonated with you the most. Or do you have a different lesson you took away from the Silicon Jungle that you'd like to share? We've just made our way together through the thick canopy, the winding trails, and the rushing streams of knowledge inside the Silicon Jungle. I hope that through the lens of this book, you found not just dry information, but also deeper feelings, fresh perspectives on the tech world, and more importantly, a clearer sense of who you are in the middle of a constantly shifting environment. In reality, whether you're in the tech jungle or any other forest in your life, whether it's the jungle of startups, the jungle of education and career, or even the jungle of personal relationships, the lessons about survival adaptation and finding your own path are timeless. They're reminders that no matter how chaotic the outside world gets, no matter how loud the call of the wild is, your inner compass is still the most reliable thing you have. And now, as we temporarily step out of that forest, I want to invite you into a new phase, an actual two-way journey, where your voice isn't just an echo, but a crucial part of shaping where this channel goes next. You know, each of us is an explorer with our own experiences, our own scars, and our own hidden treasures. Life, and especially this tough tech industry, has already taught you a lot. What's the one survival lesson that stuck with you the most? Maybe it was a moment you had to face failure and learn how to stand back up. Maybe it was a strategy you used to push through a project that felt impossible. Or maybe it was just a single piece of advice from a mentor that completely changed how you look at work and life. I don't think those lessons should stay only with you. We're building a community here, a place for learners, for people who are willing to share, so we can all grow together. Think of it like a shared survival handbook, where every comment you leave is a new page, a new piece of wisdom that someone out there, a newcomer just entering the field, or someone feeling lost in the maze of tech, might stumble upon and find a bit of light. So don't hold back. Scroll down to the comments right now and share the biggest survival lesson you've learned, whether it's from the tech world or from any jungle you've had to walk through. I'll be reading every comment, every story, and trust me, we're all going to learn a lot from each other. That's how we turn knowledge from books into living wisdom, something practical, grounded, and usable. If these little intellectual adventures, these book breakdowns, these personal reflections I've shared have been helpful to you, if they've sparked a new idea or simply helped you see some part of your life or work more clearly, then I'd really love it if you could take a second to hit the like button. That one small click from you is a huge source of encouragement. It's a way of saying the effort behind these videos is worth it. And just as importantly, it helps the YouTube algorithm understand that this content has value, so the video can reach more people who are also looking for deeper understanding. And even more importantly, if you haven't already, make sure to hit subscribe. That button isn't just a piece of UI. It's your invitation into a longer journey with us, where we'll keep exploring and humanizing more books together. By humanizing, I mean we won't just summarize content. We'll dig into the stories behind it, the human lessons, the timeless values each book carries, and turn them into inspiration and practical tools for modern life. Don't miss the next book decoding sessions, where every title is like a doorway into a completely new world waiting for us to explore. This learning journey we're on together can't exist without your input and your direction. We've just made it through the Silicon Jungle. So now the question is, what forest do you want us to explore next? Is it a forest of classic philosophy? A forest of bold ideas about the future? Or a forest of inspiring stories about leadership and personal growth? I've always believed that the best books usually come from recommendations, from people who share the same curiosity and passions. That's why I want to ask you, tell me the name of one book you'd like to see decoded on this channel. Is there a book that really made you think, that shifted how you see the world? One you'd like me to walk through with you and with this community and dig into more deeply? Drop the title of that book in the comments. Your suggestions genuinely shape what this channel becomes. They help me choose the most meaningful, most relevant works for what we're all trying to grow towards here. This isn't just a YouTube channel. This is our shared learning space, a kind of virtual book club, where every member has a say in what's on the agenda. Thank you for spending your time with this video. I hope that beyond the information, you've taken away a bit of inspiration, a small seed of curiosity you can plant and nurture. Life is an ongoing journey of learning and discovery. Every book is a world. Every video is a doorway. And every interaction from you brings us closer together as we co-create a richer space for ideas. So don't just be a viewer, be a participant. Your journey doesn't end here. It actually starts right now with the lessons you share, with the likes and subscribes you choose to give, and with the books you recommend. Until we meet again, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep growing in your own forest. I'll see you in the next video.